and kind of since I was 13, because I wrote journals from age 13 to 23, and I kept a very detailed log of my life. And
in anticipation of being famous and wanting to write a book.
No, I think just like every other kid, I read The Diary of Anne Frank, and it seemed kind of appealing and therapeutic to just keep, you know, to keep a record and kind of express myself, and I don't know, it made life feel more real to me. It made it feel like I actually existed to write down things that happened. And so there are excerpts from the journals, actual excerpts with footnotes and annotations. And yeah, but I've been working on this book for years. This wasn't now's the time and I can make some money. Let me throw it together.
This is how you start. A note to my readers. Hey, it's me, Amy. I wrote a book. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time because I love making people laugh and feeling better. Some of the stories we'll read here will be funny, like the time I myself in Austin, and some will make you feel a little blue, the time my sister and I were almost sold into sex slavery in Italy. JK, neither of those stories are in this book, even though both actually happened, unfortunately. Speaking of everything in this book really happened, it's all true and nothing but the truth, so help me God. But it isn't the whole truth. Believe it or not, I don't tell you guys everything. You do tell us a lot, though.
I do tell you a lot.
And you say you didn't tell stories about anybody that you didn't first say to them, I'm going to tell this story.
Right. Nobody whose actual name is in the book. I checked with everybody, and they read what was going to be written about them, and they approved of it.
What do you call these, essays? What?
I guess. Yeah.
How you felt about things at a moment.
Yeah, and just what happened. The thing that's good about keeping journals is you have the records of what actually happened.
But what's interesting to me, I mean, you say you're not Nora Ephron.
Right.
Everything is copy. You don't feel that way.
Yes, I don't feel that way. I feel that if I'm going to say something that might hurt someone's feelings or they might be embarrassed by, I want to make sure. I've had people say, please don't write about me. Or I've written things and they say, I'm not comfortable with that, and then I won't put it out. But everything I've said on TV or in interviews or anything, I spoke to the people in my life first, and they said it was okay. Because when I was first starting out, I would make a joke, and then a friend would get upset. And I mean, this is 13 years ago that I learned that lesson. That it's not worth it to hurt anybody that you care about for a joke. Yeah, exactly. So everything is not copy
for
to
a
me.
joke or to sell a book?
For a joke, definitely not to sell a book.
Yeah. What's different in terms of the book and stand-up for you?
This is the most personal thing I've ever been a part of. It's just literally what happened and how I felt about it, and there's still jokes in there because even at the time I found the humor in it, but it's it's just completely raw. There's no facade. It's with stand-up it's still a little bit of a character, even though I feel like my stand-up's getting more and more personal, but this book it's me, and it's all true.
People like Seinfeld and others have come to this table, and what they in essence are, they say, are stand-up comedians.
Yeah.
That's what they are. Mm-hmm. That's how they would define themselves.
Yeah.
You?
A model.
A model.
No, I feel very much like a stand-up comic. But I first think of myself as a woman.
Well, I think they think that too. I mean,
they think that they're women as well.
Well, no, but in terms of not thinking of themselves as a writer, or thinking of themselves as an actor, or thinking of themselves as,
I've thought
a sketch comedian.
I understand what you're saying. I've thought of myself as a comic for the last 13 plus years, and now I feel like I'm evolving, so I don't know. I would still say that I'm a comic, but I don't know if maybe in another 13 years I would say, no, I'm really more a writer, and that's how I identify. But I've identified as a comedian.
Has this turned out like you anticipated?
Writing a book?
No, the whole life. Yes.
Yeah.
It was the dream.
This has surpassed my dreams. I always knew that I would perform in some capacity, but I wasn't sure how. But I always believed that things were going to work out.
Did you have a comedic voice?
Always, yeah.
And you knew that early on?
Yeah, even as young as I can remember, I was making people laugh. hearing myself say that, I want to throw up.
And that kind of defines you, doesn't it? I mean, in a sense, if you can do that, it separates you.
Yeah, it does. It's, you either have it or you don't. And it's a little bit of a superpower as a kid, because you can get yourself out of some trouble or into a lot of trouble. But it does separate you. And I always think of this thing that Chris Rock said in actually a PBS documentary, Make 'Em Laugh.
Right.
He said, if ignorance is bliss, then what's the opposite of that? So comedians, I feel like we observe so much that it kind of is like a living hell. So it feels like this thing that you're kind of blessed with, but it's also a curse.
So that means comedians see life maybe with a different eye than the rest of us.
Definitely.
We see the humor in things, or we see the absurdity in things.
I think
All of
both
that.
of those. Yeah, I think all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you knew that early.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a comedic voice. And how didn't you go about, in a sense, honing it and making it what it became? Is it just?
I think just being open to evolving, and so what was funny to me and how I was doing stand-up 10 years ago is very different than how it is now.
How so?
Well, I was really doing a character when I started, sort of this
How would you
irreverent.
define the character? Irreverent?
Irreverent, just like white idiot, just like a kind of Stepfordy sorority girl who didn't know any better, with like a lot of one-liners, and because you start out and you're just getting stage time however you can, but most shows are open mics, which means you're performing in front of only other comedians waiting to perform who paid to be there. It's an ugly, it's productive, but it's a rough thing to do, and there's not great energy in the room. So I would have to actually surprise people into laughing. If you get a laugh at those, it's not easy. So that.
And they would be surprised that they were laughing?
Yeah, because everyone's looking at their notebook waiting to go up, so you'd have to say something that kind of caught them off guard to pay attention. So there was a little bit more of a shock factor. And then as time's gone on, I've moved further and further away from that. I still love a good one-liner or something that has a twist.
And
but
what have you moved to?
More storytelling and more of who I really am. I think it's, we have different versions of ourselves, who I would be at a party with my best friends, really saying what I think and being kind of on, when you're in the mood to kind of be social and you're kind of feeling it. That's me on stage. So it's very much me right now, with maybe a one-liner or two thrown in. That's just something awful. But mostly it's the closest to myself that I've ever been on stage.
Who's helped you shape it? Has Chris Rock helped you in a way?
Chris helped me so much just by agreeing to direct my special. But Jerry Seinfeld, Louis, Dave Attell, Jim Norton.
Oh, you're talking about the best.
The best. I get to be friends with the best, and we help each other. I think it seems like a lonely club at the top. And they were kind of excited, not that I'm in their league, but they were excited to have like someone new who could sort of understand the level that they're operating at, just in terms of the size of a venue and exposure, and how if they say something, it becomes national news. And they've really done their best to advise me, even though I don't listen as much as I should.
What's the best advice they give?
Well, Louis and Chris, they all tell me just to like basically shut up and not respond to any of the anything going on in the media.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
It's hard to do, especially in a world of Twitter and.
Yeah, and I'm a comic. I'm a communicator by nature,
exactly.
So I want people to understand what I'm saying.
And you want to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, and it's just it just seems so unfair and unjust when the celebrity culture that's existed for so long, where just straight up lies are printed. I want to say, hey, that's not true.
Yeah.
And then that makes it a bigger story, even by responding. But they're like, just stay off of there.
Yeah, but I think many of them, Louis, for example, I think he finds it irresistible. I mean, he said some things about the political race.
Sure.
That he knew got him in trouble, but he believed it, and so he repeated it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's that moment of, should I have whatever? And, you know, I personally felt very grateful that he did that. And
because you agreed with him.
well, I agreed with him, of course, but yeah, but their advice is to just shut my yap.
And so this controversy about Metzger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never did I think I'd be hearing Charlie Rose say Metzger. Kurt Metzger, yes.
I would never believe that, would you?
No.
Yeah. So what's that about?
What's it about?
In other words, is that an example where you waded in even though you'd rather just have not? Or you felt compelled because it touched you?
I mean, Kurt is one of the reasons he's such a great writer and such a great contributor to our television show is because his views are so different from that of mine and most of the other writers in the room, especially Jesse Klein, who's the head writer of the show. We butt heads, we get in fights because he infuriates us. And the room is, it's an interesting writer's room because it's always been very diverse with the views in there. We don't want it to just be one-sided. We don't want it to, Jesse and I have such similar sensibilities that it's good to, it feels very positive to have someone in there saying, well, this is from the male perspective, and not that Kurt is but he is the most male, you know, like the most out there perspective possible. Kurt's my friend. I love him. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't read his crazy rants. Like he gets something from going after people, making them mad, that is not representative of me at all. You know, I've asked him, can you just stop? Because it comes back to me. Because he writes for the show, it's a bigger story because of our connection. And so whatever tangent he's gone off on, I have not agreed with, and it's been really upsetting to me seeing someone that I care about hurt themselves like this. And so, you know, right now there's no plans for the TV show to come back in any time in the near future. So nobody's on my staff. There are no writers. I think people, you know, they want his head. They want to burn him at the stake. And
you want?
I want them to not attach me to what he's writing, and I would love to refocus the energy and the attention on the real problem, which is I feel people understanding is about rape.
Yes.
And what's consensual and what's not, and because they really the way that he's been gone after, because he baits people. He's the problem, no question, but the focus is on him rather than on what the real main problem is.
You mean a smart understanding of what rape has become and what we're now understanding about it.
Yeah.
And you look at what's happening on campuses, and you look at a whole range of places.
Right.
Where people in 2016 are stepping forward who did not step forward before. Yeah,
I think it's great that people are stepping forward, and if it's not done in a way that Kurt feels is right, it's, you know, that's really upsetting to hear. It's like we all need to be empowering each other, but to focus your energy on online trolling, if I did that, I wouldn't get anything done. Let's focus on actually getting the problem done. And I was sexually assaulted. I encourage women to come out, and I want men to hear what happened so that there's no confusion, because there are people have different understandings of what sexual assault is, what rape is. So let's all get on the same page so that it happens less.
It is extraordinary when you see somebody